Wait, hold up. Diddy's lawyers are saying what now? That he should be let out of jail because he hired male escorts for his girlfriend. Oh, we have got to talk about this. What is up, everybody? And welcome back to Extra Hot Topic, the place where we get into all the tea that is piping hot. I'm your host, and today the teapot is not just whistling, it is screaming. Just when you thought the saga of Sean Diddy Combs couldn't get any more wild, his legal team files a motion that has sent shockwaves across the internet. Now, for those who need a quick recap, the bad boy mogul has been at the center of a massive federal trial. We saw the dramatic raids on his homes, we heard the shocking allegations, and we watched as a jury delivered a verdict that was, to say the least, complicated. He was acquitted of the most serious charges, like being the head of a criminal enterprise under the RICO Act and sex trafficking. But the jury did find him guilty on 2 counts of transporting women across state lines for prostitution. Since his arrest back in September 2024, he has been in custody, awaiting his sentencing, which is currently scheduled for October 3rd of this year. But his lawyers are not waiting quietly. They filed a motion to get him released before that sentencing date. And the reasons they're giving, y'all, it's a journey. They're talking about a lack of precedent, a domestic violence program, and a truly mind-boggling claim involving male escorts that they say was just part of a swinger's lifestyle. We're also going to dive deep into the fiery response from the judge, the Honorable Arun Subramanian, and a powerful gut-wrenching letter from Cassie Ventura's legal team urging the court to keep him locked up. So grab your snacks, get comfortable, and let's get into the absolute audacity of this legal filing. You are not going to believe the arguments they are trying to make. Let's break it all down. All right, y'all. Before we get into this wild motion, let's set the stage with the verdict itself, because it's crucial to understanding why his lawyers are trying this. Part 1, the verdict, what he beat versus what stuck. So Diddy was facing a whole slate of charges, but the biggest, scariest ones were racketeering and sex trafficking. The racketeering charge under the RICO Act basically alleged that he was running his company and inner circle like a criminal organization to commit crimes. This is the same kind of law they used to take down mob bosses. Being acquitted of that was a huge win for him. A conviction could have meant life in prison. He was also acquitted on the sex trafficking charges. Prosecutors had argued that he used force, fraud, or coercion to make women, including his ex-girlfriend known as Jane, perform in these freak-offs. But the jury wasn't convinced beyond a reasonable doubt on those counts. However, he was not fully cleared. The jury found him guilty on 2 counts of something called transportation to engage in prostitution. This falls under a century-old law called the Mann Act. We're going to do a little history lesson on that later because it's fascinating. Essentially, they found he knowingly transported his ex-girlfriends, Cassie Ventura and Jane, across state lines with the intent for them to engage in prostitution, specifically with male sex workers he hired. Each of these counts carries a maximum sentence of 10 years, meaning he faces up to 20 years behind bars. Okay, so now that we have that context, let's get into this motion his lawyers filed on Tuesday, July 29th. Part 2, the motion, the let our guy go arguments. His lawyers are basically saying, Your Honor, our client shouldn't be in jail while he waits for sentencing. And their first argument is, brace yourselves. They claim there's never been a case like this one. Okay, let's marinate on that. Is it unique? Sure, a world-famous hip-hop billionaire found guilty of flying his girlfriends around to have relations with male escorts he hired is not your everyday case. But to say there's no precedent feels like a stretch. It's a classic legal tactic. Try to frame your case as so bizarrely unique that the normal rules shouldn't apply. But that's not even the main event. This next part is the line that broke the internet. His legal team wrote, and I'm quoting this directly so you know I'm not embellishing, Sean Combs should not be in jail for this conduct. In fact, he may be the only person currently in a United States jail for being any sort of John. And certainly the only person in jail for hiring adult male escorts for him and his girlfriend when he did not even have sex with the escort himself. I have so many questions. Is this the he wasn't the player, he was the coach defense? The he didn't eat the cake, he just ordered it for the party argument? They are trying to reframe this as him being a thoughtful, if unconventional, partner who was just facilitating a swinger's lifestyle for his girlfriends. And the argument that he's the only one in jail for this. Is that supposed to be a point in his favor? It's like saying, Your Honor, my client is a true pioneer in this very specific field of crime. A trailblazer. You can't imprison an innovator. The audacity is breathtaking. It's a level of legal gymnastics that will get a perfect 10 in the Olympics. The other big push is the rehabilitated father angle. They wrote, if released on condition, Sean Combs will not be violent to anyone. This jury gave him his life back, and he will not squander his second chance at life, nor would he do anything to further jeopardize his 7 children not having a father, and 4 of his children not having a parent at all. They also make a point to mention that before his arrest, he had enrolled in a domestic violence program. This is a very common play in high-profile cases. It's an appeal to emotion, and while it's genuinely sad for his children, using them as a centerpiece in a motion for release after being convicted of federal crimes can feel very calculated to the public. Part 3, the money honey, the $50 million bail package. So what are they offering to make sure he behaves? A massive bail package. We're talking a $50 million bond secured by his home in Miami, co-signed by 3 financially responsible people. For context, that's a huge number. Phil Spector's bail was $1 million. Michael Jackson's was $3 million. R. Kelly's was $1 million. Hedge fund manager Raj Rajaratnam had a $100 million bond for insider trading. So $50 million is up there in the stratosphere, meant to show the court that he has way too much to lose to even think about fleeing. They've also offered to have him surrender his passport, be subject to home detention with electronic monitoring, and only travel between Florida and New York for legal purposes. Part 4. The pushback, the judge, and the victim. So, with this creative motion filed, how did the people on the other side react? Let's start with the man in the robe, Judge Arun Subramanian. This is not the first time Diddy's team has asked for bail. They tried right after the verdict with a $1 million proposal, and Judge Subramanian shut it down hard. His reasoning was that Diddy's conduct showed a disregard for the rule of law and a propensity of violence. And this is the killer line. The judge reportedly exclaimed to Diddy's legal team, "You full-throatedly in your closing argument told the jury that there was violence here." Wow! The judge basically held up a giant mirror to their own arguments. During the trial, the defense had to concede some of the violence, especially concerning Cassie, saying, "It happened." So for them to turn around and say, "Our client isn't a danger," the judge was like, "Excuse me? I have the receipts from your own mouth." He's the first South Asian judge to serve on this particular bench, appointed in 2023, and he has a history of taking on cases involving fraud and victims of trafficking. So he is clearly not someone who is easily fooled. Now, let's talk about the most powerful voice in this rebuttal, Cassie Ventura. Her lawyer, Douglas Wigdor, submitted a letter to the judge that is absolutely chilling. Says, Ms. Ventura believes that Mr. Combs is likely to pose a danger to the victims who testified in this case, including herself, as well as to the community. Let that sink in. The person whose civil lawsuit in November 2023 started this whole avalanche is now telling the court she's afraid for her life if he gets out. Another witness, Deontay Nash, also wrote a letter saying he has no doubt Diddy would continue to intimidate and threaten people. This isn't just a legal argument, it's a plea for safety. It directly contradicts the defense's promise that Diddy won't be violent. It paints a picture of fear and potential retaliation that is impossible for a judge to ignore. Part 5, what comes next? A quick history of the Mann Act. So Diddy remains in custody with his sentencing set for October 3rd. He faces a maximum of 20 years. His lawyers are hoping for a much shorter sentence. maybe around 21 to 27 months, while prosecutors are aiming for closer to 5 years or more. The law he was convicted under, the Mann Act, has a really wild history. It was passed way back in 1910 and was originally called the White Slave Traffic Act. It was aimed at stopping human trafficking, with the belief at the time being that women could only enter prostitution if they were drugged or kidnapped. But the language was super broad, making it illegal to transport a woman across state lines for any other immoral purpose. It has led to the law being used to prosecute all sorts of things, including consensual relationships. Famous figures like boxer Jack Johnson and musician Chuck Berry were prosecuted under it, in cases many believe were racially motivated. The law was updated in 1986 to be gender neutral and to remove the vague immoral purpose language, changing it to any sexual activity for which any person can be charged with a criminal offense. So while his lawyers call their client's prosecution unique, he's now part of a long and complicated legal history. Part 6, the bigger picture, the industry fallout. This case doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's a massive moment for the music industry, particularly hip-hop. For years, Diddy was an aspirational figure, the ultimate mogul. Now, as one journalist put it, he's arguably become the Bill Cosby of hip-hop, is forcing a reckoning about power, abuse, and accountability that has been a long time coming. Interestingly, despite the horrific allegations, data showed that his music streams actually increased by 18% in the week after his arrest, which is a bizarre phenomenon we also saw with R. Kelly. But the long-term damage to his legacy and brand is undeniable. Awards could be rescinded, and his name will forever be linked to this trial. And that, y'all, is the deep dive on this absolute circus of a legal motion. From the male escort defense to the judge's incredible clapback, this story has more twist than a pretzel. But I have to know what you all think. Drop your reactions in the comments below. What was your jaw on the floor moment reading about this motion? Do you think the judge will ever grant him release before sentencing? And what do you think this all means for the music industry going forward? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Extra Hot Topic. If you appreciate the deep dives and want to stay on top of all the piping hot tea, please do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. And of course, a thumbs up always helps the channel out. Until next time, stay informed and stay fabulous.